You're listening to Upon Further Review, presented by Coors Light on the official Raiders Podcast Network. Here's your host, Eddie Paskal.
Raider Nation, what is going on? Eddie Paskal and producer Trav in Henderson, Nevada and San Jose, California. And exciting news, the entire squad of the Remote Boys will be checking in on today's episode. We are beyond thrilled, so excited. My heart is leaping with excitement because in just a little bit at the end in his usual location, the great Kyle Cannon Booby Cartwright Martin is back. Just like the Premier League is back, so is KMM, and I could not be more excited. And that's really just the cherry on top of it. Is going to be a really good show today. We're feeling good. We're feeling strong about the audio tent that we are bringing to the masses this week. In just a few minutes, after we get through all the headlines and the business of the week, as we typically do, we're going to welcome in one of our good friends, one of our favorite. You see her on NFL Network all the time. She was a staple at 1220 Harbor Bay Parkway, and we're hoping that will be the same at our facility out here in Vegas. Our close personal friend, the great MJ Acosta, will join us. MJ will talk about the Pro Bowl in Vegas. Spoiler alert, the roster moves the silver and black have made the past couple months. The expectations for this team headed into 2020 and beyond. And we just have a lot of fun, man. Like I said, we really enjoy MJ. We really enjoy her time. And it's just good to chop it up with an old pal and fake some semblance of normal for a little bit. But before we get into all that, we begin where we always do with our transactions. And surprise, surprise, for the second week in a row, I think this might be history, Travi. No transactions. Nothing on the wire. This might be the longest we've gone in the history of our program, Trav, without having a single transaction. It's incredible. It's a whole new world. It is very bizarre. It is uncomfortable. And frankly, I don't like it. Let's start rocking and rolling this roster again, please. And make some moves, because Daddy needs the moves. So, no transactions this week, but to make up for that, some big, legitimate headlines. And let's just start with this one, the one that everyone's been talking about the past 24-ish hours as we record this on a Wednesday afternoon. What are days? But the 2021 Pro Bowl headed to the desert to be taking place at beautiful Allegiant Stadium. That's on January 31, 2021. The NFL, made that announcement yesterday that the final game, I should say, before the Super Bowl next year will take place in the desert. And like I said, we're going to talk to MJ about this a little bit more, but really, you look at now, we have the NFL draft is coming to Vegas in 2022. You got a Pro Bowl in 2021, a Super Bowl hopefully at some point in the near future. I mean, this stadium, and we're getting really close to the completion of said stadium, is not only going to be an incredible feat of architecture and construction and engineering and willpower, but man, it is going to be one of those stadiums that we talk about now as constantly being in the mix for these big marquee events. Because you think about it now, you look at the cities, you think about them just logically at the top of your head. Where are all the Super Bowls getting played? Miami, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta. And I think if this trajectory holds, you are going to have to add Las Vegas and Allegiant Stadium to that list. And I know we're a few years away from a Super Bowl, hopefully, knock on wood. But you just see and you kind of read the tea leaves of these big dog events coming to the desert. And man, this city is ready for big time sports. They've made it abundantly clear that they are a sports town. They want to be a sports town. And now that they got the teams, oof, man, I cannot wait. This is going to be a lot of fun. So everyone, mark your calendars, January 31, 2021. And come watch the best and the brightest in the NFL take the field at Allegiant Stadium. And I will ask the great KMM about this in just a few minutes, but I wonder how many flu-like symptoms we're going to have during the Pro Bowl next year. Just throwing that out there. And one last thing before we welcome in our good pal, MJ Acosta, more exciting news as the 2021 College Football Hall of Fame ballot has been released. And there is no shortage of silver and black representation on that list, going in no particular order. Steve Wisniewski, Carson Palmer, friend of the program and Raiders legend Sebastian Janikowski, Robert Gallery, David Fulcher, Willie Gault, Bob Golick, and Tyrone Poole are your players that are nominated for the 2021 College Football Hall of Fame. And that is pretty cool. And we're going to have to wait a little bit to find out which of these guys eventually do get in. But man, you're going through that list, and that is a lot of silver and black representation. And if I had to pick one guy, and I will admit my bias is quite obvious here as our resident special teams advocate, put Bass in, man. Put Bass in the Hall of Fame, in the College Football Hall of Fame. I've long maintained that he was one Super Bowl away from being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Put him in the College Football Hall of Fame, man. He's a legend, an absolute legend. And people forget too, when Bass ended up in college, when he was in college, I should say, he didn't have a ton of place kicking experience when he was breaking all these records and winning the Lou Garza Award. He didn't have a lot. He was a soccer player who essentially hit the rebrand, headed into college, and was like, all right, I guess I'm just a beast like this now. So put Bass in the Hall of Fame, man. It is the right thing to do. It's really that easy. So, as I said, we are just set right now to momentarily welcome in our good friend from the NFL Network, MJ Acosta. And as I said, we hit a lot of things with MJ. We talk about life in quarantine, obviously the Pro Bowl coming to Vegas, what that's going to mean for this team, for this city, for the league. And we just talk about the silver and black in 2020 and what things are looking like for them, all these shiny new toys Derek has. And it's just a lot of fun. So sit back and relax and hang out with us and our good pal, MJ Acosta. And MJ, since we saw you last at the Combine, which was like 300 years ago,
right?
Nothing in the world has happened. It's been a very slow, kind of boring, methodical time for all of us. So where do you want to start? We could talk Raiders roster moves. We can talk about everything that's going on in the world, the Pro Bowl in Vegas, life in COVID. Like, you tell me. Be the director of the movie.
You know what? I think the most, the newest breaking news would be that the Pro Bowl is going to Vegas, right? I retweeted it this morning with, whoa, that's pretty huge. I think it's good. I think it sort of balances it out, given that the draft couldn't be there this year, even though the draft will be held in Vegas later on. But it really shows how much more life, because I can't say life, Vegas is pretty lit already, quite literally. But that'll be really, really interesting. I mean, we've had the Pro Bowl in Hawaii, we've had it in Orlando for several years. Vegas is a totally different stratosphere compared to those two places. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's gonna play out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we got the news, we were like, oh, we kind of had the same reaction you did. We're like, oh, okay, like this is going to be kind of different and kind of cool, because not only did you, like you said, is Vegas a completely different animal than Orlando or Hawaii, with all due respect to those very fine cities,
right?
But it's also another chance to show off this shiny new stadium, a stadium that a lot of us have a vested interest in, and we've seen so many people put so many hours and literally years into this project. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be so much different. I'm excited to see if we go full Vegas with like the red carpet and everything. Or, I mean, I feel like you kind of do. Like, I wonder if it's going to be like kind of like the draft 2.0, or all the stuff we saw about the draft, right? Or what the draft would have been with the players coming in on the boats. And I don't know, like you could have, if you're a creative person, if you're a lot more creative than me, you could have a lot of fun coming up with events for the Pro Bowl in Vegas.
Well, and the Pro Bowl is the time too where like the guys are so laid back, they're chill. I mean, for all of the season is over at that point. So, I mean, I think all of those things coming together, it's the pre-party to the Super Bowl. So that's going to be really cool.
How crazy is to think about that you're going to have Vegas as like your pre-function. You know what I mean? For what the week of the Super Bowl is like. That's pretty funny to think about that. Vegas is going to be like the warm-up.
Right. Pace yourselves, everyone. That's all.
I know it's gonna be a long 2 weeks. It's gonna be a very long 2 weeks for all. Hydrate. That's my only advice. Drink a lot of water and get as much sleep as you can. But I think what's also exciting about the Pro Bowl coming to Vegas, and for all the reasons that you brought up, but also too, I feel like it kind of gives a little more like legitimacy, a little more oomph to what this city's trying to be.
Totally.
It's no secret that Vegas is now fancying itself a sports town. You look at the success the Knights have had, UFC, boxing, everything that's here. But you kind of give this city an event like the Pro Bowl, and that's another pretty nice feather in the cap for this city to have.
That takes it to a completely different level. It was so funny. Just earlier today, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's originally from Las Vegas, born and raised, and left to get an opportunity in sports because Las Vegas wasn't a sports town. And he says, funny enough, I leave, and a couple years later, they've got the NHL, they have an NFL team there now. UFC has always sort of been a big thing there in boxing, but it has really sort of solidified itself. Now there's a brand new NFL stadium there. So this is a whole new chapter for the city of Las Vegas and for the people there too.
Absolutely. And I think the people are really excited about it too. I mean, granted that I'm just like you, where I haven't left my house a whole lot in the past 3 months, but even in just talking to like my neighbors or the guys that you see when you're at the park walking the dog, like there is a tangible excitement for this team to be in Vegas. There is a tangible excitement for that stadium to open in whatever capacity it's going to be in 2020, because none of us know at this point. But I think what's really cool is that the one thing that stuck with me throughout my first couple of months here is there's such a sense of community. There's such a sense of civic pride here. And for the people of Las Vegas to get another tentpole big time event like the Pro Bowl, that's got to be pretty cool for them.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And I think just knowing, as you and I both know, Eddie, how hard Raider Nation goes and how well Raiders fans travel, just assume that all the hotels are already booked.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they might not all be booked by Raiders fans, because I'm sure a lot of people have kind of hedged their bets and are thinking, all right, this team's going to end up in, the Super Bowl's in Tampa Bay next year, right? So they might be saving that money and going to Tampa Bay. Who knows? But who knows? It'll be exciting to find out. But MJ, we bring you on for a ton of reasons. We like hanging out with you. You're one of our favorite people. But we got to talk a little ball, right? I mean, we got to talk a little football. And it seems like, I was saying at the top, that it seems like it's been forever since we talked to you and hung out with you face to face, not in this virtual Zoom world that we're living in. But since we last spoke 17 years ago, this Raiders roster has really, it feels like that long though, doesn't it?
Yeah, literally, it's been 84 years, yes.
I was but a teenager the last time we hung out. But this Raiders roster is like completely turned over in a lot of senses. And you look at, especially on the offensive side of the ball, Derek Carr has a lot of weapons now, a lot of shiny, fast, speedy weapons. One weapon who's going to Canton whenever he decides his career is over. But you look at what this team has done. You add Henry Ruggs. I've been calling him Hank just because it's a little easier. Rolls off the tongue a little bit better. We're tight like that.
Is that the? I mean, I'm not gonna come in like
no.
week one like, hey Hank, but I'm gonna try it out at some point in the season.
I've been going just internally. I've been going with Hank Ruggs 3 just to trim it down a little bit. And I think Hank Ruggs. I like it. Yeah, but speaking of Hank Ruggs 3, I mean, that is essentially exactly what the doctor ordered for this Raiders offense headed into 2020. No disrespect to anyone that was on the roster last year, but the glaring lack of speed, that glaring lack of a playmaker on the outside. And I'm the biggest Tyrell Williams fan you're going to find, and that dude wasn't 100% last year. He is going to be back better than ever next year. So we haven't gotten the full picture of him. But to add a guy like Henry Ruggs to the mix, especially for John Gruden, for Derek Carr, I mean, he checks all the boxes.
Yeah, and I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations being put on a guy who has not taken one NFL snap yet. We get it. We know that. However, I think if there is someone that has a tremendous upside and the ability to really, quite literally, hit the ground running as soon as the season starts, it's going to be a guy like Henry Ruggs. And I think that is the very reason why he was such the appropriate fit for the Raiders organization. When you look at what he's done, yes, everybody remembers that 4.27 at the combine, right? And how fast he was and how he was disappointed in that. That's another story. But it's also his body of work from college, what he does and what he has yet to do and the potential to do. And then his work ethic, because everyone you speak to in regards to Henry Ruggs, especially those who have known him through college, just speak to his work ethic and how hard he goes every time he's on the field and even when he's not. So I'm really anxious to see him in full capacity with the rest of his teammates paired up with Tyrell, who, by the way, is a veteran of this league. I've covered him at length when I was in San Diego and he was with the Chargers, and then when they moved to LA as well. So I've seen what he can do as well and how hard he works. So I'm hoping like for a romance there. This is how I visualize it in my head. Like, did we just become best friends? Yep. The two of them, just a 1-2 punch in the aerial attack for the Raiders.
Yeah, because they really do. If everything goes to plan and everyone stays healthy and everything looks the way it's supposed to look, they really are a really nice complement to each other, right? Because I don't think Tyrell would ever tell you that he's the 4.27 burner guy that Henry Ruggs is. Tyrell, obviously, a much more a bigger wide receiver, a more physical wide receiver than Henry is. And so, I mean, if you really get those guys rocking in tandem, I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun for Derek Carr, for sure.
Without question. And I think that's sort of one of the other things when we look at everything that's happening and the restrictions with the pandemic and just getting everyone to training camp. That's where my focus will be and where my eyes will be with how these guys will really come together and have to really expedite all of those things and getting in sync and getting in motion quickly before the season starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that having a guy like Derek Carr, a guy who's been in the system, who knows exactly what the expectations are from head coach John Gruden, I mean, that's key any year. But considering the weird kind of uncertain world that we're all collectively living in right now, I mean, I don't know if you can put a dollar tag or dollar price on what Derek is going to mean to this team in 2020, just because of that familiarity. And, you know, I hate the term coach on the field, but that's essentially what he's going to be between now and training camp.
Right. It has to be. And what he's already been. We've seen his leaders. I mean, you know how I feel about DC. He is one of not only the best players, but the best humans and a true leader. Just from the jump, from the second he got into this league, and he's really owned that, especially now in this Gruden era. He knew that he was going to have to step up even more so because of the expectations and just Gruden's playbook, quite frankly. And he has done that. And I think that already now in this offseason through the pandemic, Derek has also stepped up in that role and will continue to do so. And he's going to make sure that everybody's on their P's and Q's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just going back to kind of the roster and the new toys that Derek's going to have, I mean, if you're a Raider fan, if you were sitting here the last time we talked in February at the Combine, you probably had a list of things that you wanted heading into training camp. And if you're a Raider fan now, you have to feel like by and large, most of those things got checked off the list. The linebacking core has been redone. You got your speedy wide receiver on the outside. You got offensive line depth. I mean, there really isn't any area of this roster that wasn't addressed in a calculated, meaningful way over the past, call it 4 or 5 months.
Right. It was strategic. It was purposeful between Mayock and Gruden. I mean, they're not playing any games. They knew exactly. And there was, by the way, a lot of holes to fill. There was a lot to address. And starting in free agency, they started to tick those boxes. And now it's all about it coming together. I've called it like the puzzle pieces, right? But at this point, it's like one of those like 5,000 piece puzzles, but we're getting there. Like you really start to see it. And I think once we finally get to training camp and start to see these things come together on the field, we'll start to see the clear picture of what Gruden and Mayock have been building here.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of training camp, like this is going to be such a unique training camp for everyone, for the players, for people like you and I, for trainers, for literally everyone. I mean, do you have any expectation of what it's going to, I'll just start with you, of what it's going to look like for you? Like, are you going to be, I can't imagine you're going to be on the road as much. Like, I mean, I
have no idea. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to be prepared for any and every possibility. And no one knows. I mean, teams are still trying to figure it out. The league office is trying to figure it out. And media entities are trying to figure it out as well. And just have contingency plans ready for everyone for whatever it looks like. I would anticipate that we're going to see a lot more Zoom availability or video conference availability in that sense. Definitely limited availability for who's allowed in the facility, obviously for safety and health concerns. So it's going to be weird because as you and I know, like going into the locker room, being able to talk to these guys, seeing them face to face out on the field, it's an access that is not just part of the job, but it's essential to the job. I think to really be able to bring to all of the fans and all of the viewers who follow along with their favorite team, for us to give them that perspective from being there is necessary. So I just don't know what that would look like, but I'm sort of bracing for impact and just getting prepared to make sure like my laptop's always charged, that my Wi-Fi is good, and that I'm ready to go, and like still have a suitcase ready just in case.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, you kind of got to find that fine line where, you know,
Mhm.
that access is so important to what we do, and you want to be able to tell those stories and bring these stories to
Yeah,
the fans and the people that don't have a chance to see the ins and outs like we do. But at the other on the
right.
other side of things, like you have to be careful, you have to be safe, you have to have a bigger picture in mind of keeping everyone the way that they're supposed to be, and it's just like this
Hmm.
weird, like you said, nobody knows, and everyone's trying to
Yeah,
find out the answers, and none of us have them yet.
right. It's impossible. Like I have people ask me every single day. I'm like, I don't know if I knew. If I knew, then I'd probably run my own network
Yeah,
at this
exactly. I was going to
point.
say, if you knew, then you wouldn't be talking to me right now. You'd be talking to a lot more important people for
I
sure.
100% would be talking to you, Eddie.
Oh, I know you don't mean that, but I appreciate it. How has life in quarantine been for you though? Like what's going on? What's new in MJ Acosta's world?
Yeah, I mean, it's been weird, you know, like I've poured myself, I mean, every drawer, every box, every like organizational project that I had put aside for the past 2 years has now been done. That's for sure. But then it's just been interesting because I think everybody's been in this space where we're just trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out how to live in this current state. I don't want to call it the new normal because I don't believe that this is going to be forever. But trying to live in what the current status of the world is and processing all of those new things. And then the last couple of weeks with everything that has been going on in our country with the fight for social justice and making sure that everyone understands that Black Lives Matter and making sure that all the voices are lifted and that there is equality. It's really heavy. It's really heavy, and it's been sort of a journey to figure out how to make sure that you're outspoken and supportive because it's important, and then also taking care of yourself emotionally and mentally and taking care of your friends and looking out for people too. So the past 3 months have just been a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah. And I was actually going to give you some props too. I'm glad you brought it up though, because I think that especially now, like there's so much chatter on social media, right? Whether it's good, whether it's bad. I mean, we'll have to find out in a couple of years, but I've really enjoyed, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I've really respected the way that you've attacked everything in terms of everything that's going on in the country. And I think that you've brought um, just a good perspective on things. And like you said, wanting to raise people's voices up, to elevate people
Yeah.
so that the people who need to be heard, who have been fighting for years and years and years to get heard, are finally having a chance to be heard. And I was going to say that, man. I guess I thought you've done a really nice job and really poignant, very well thought out with how you've attacked things, and it hasn't gone unnoticed on this side. So well done.
Thanks, Eddie. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, the players certainly take the onus upon themselves to make sure they use their platforms to speak about social injustice and police brutality that affects them and affects people who look like them and people that they love disproportionately in this country. And so I think us as media members, we have that same responsibility. And aside from just speaking about it publicly, speaking about it on air, it's the conversations you have within the circles in your life, right? The interpersonal communication you have with your family members, with your friends, with people you interact with your colleagues, that has been paramount too. And they're difficult and really uncomfortable conversations, really painful conversations too. But I just hope that everyone takes a moment to sit in that uncomfortableness, because that's what it's going to take to really move forward and turn the page and really cause real change for the better in this country.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad you brought up like those uncomfortable conversations, because we were talking to Tyrell a week ago, and Tyrell had a really heartfelt Instagram post about just detailing kind of the racial injustices and the racism that he dealt with as a kid in small town Oregon. And we were talking to him about that. And he was saying one of the things that he regrets about kind of his journey to this point, he goes, I didn't check people enough. You know, he goes, I thought that, you know, I thought they were joking, or I'm just going to let this one slide. And he said, like, now is the time to start having those uncomfortable conversations. He goes, like, now is not the time to let that go unchecked, to not say something. And I've like definitely been thinking about that in a more concerted way too. But then I've also really thought, like, I've realized like this is like a time for a lot of people to listen too, right? Like I'll never know Tyrell's experience. I'll never know your experience. I'll never know, say, Jones' experience. Like I'll never get that. Like as much as I try to understand that, and as much as I read, and as much as I listen, like I really won't get it. But like this is the time, this is the moment to, like, for a lot of people, just to shut up and just listen to people that need to be heard.
Yeah, but I think even that action, right? It feels like inaction, just listening, but even that part just educating yourself and truly empathizing and listening to other people and what they have actually been going through, what they've been fighting for, what they've been protesting against for eons in this country is huge. That's a step as well. Having the compassion as a human being to sit there and truly open your mind and open your heart to somebody else's experience outside of your world of what you know to be true is a huge step as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy just going back to Tyrell, where we were talking and we were kind of just, speaking afterwards. And I told him, I was like, it's one of those things where you feel like in so many ways, like these guys like Tyrell or Zay Jones or whoever it is, like they're kind of immune from so much of this stuff, when the fact is that they're not. And it's been really educational, enlightening, whatever the term you want to use, is to like hear all these guys' story, and heartbreaking in a way too, to hear all these guys that have essentially more or less the same story. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, how tall you are, how fast you run the 40, like you are not immune from dealing with the things that a lot of these guys have to deal with. And it's terrible. I mean, it's really the only word for it. It is absolutely terrible that so many people in this country, and a country that so many of us love and has done so much for so many of us, has completely missed the mark for a big portion of our population.
Right, 100%. And hearing those stories, like even hearing it from family members, from my younger brother, from some of my best friends, and me myself sharing my own stories, a lot of people have said, wait, what? Like that act, and that's the truth. But I think a big thing is a lot of people didn't share those stories before, because that was just daily life. That was routine. That was just part of our reality. And not having that be known also affects it. So I think that now everyone is sharing those stories, and everyone sees like, dang, my favorite football player or my favorite actor or my next door neighbor or my little brother have all experienced the same thing. It does not matter your socioeconomic status at this point, is powerful as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it, when you can put a face to it, like a face that that you recognize, that you've had conversations with, that you see every day, it definitely changes the way that you look at an issue. You know what I mean? When there's like a tangible, like, oh, that happened to Tyrell, like our Tyrell, and it makes it a lot realer. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, but it does. It makes it a lot more. You feel it a lot more than you would otherwise. But MJ, I hate to end on that. That was kind of a bummer note. But let me ask you this: are we going to get you to Vegas this year? Are we going to get you to a game? Like,
I will get that message to my bosses immediately.
Tell them that Eddie and Travis want you to get out to the desert.
I mean, I would imagine that there at some point I would be out there. I'm certainly petitioning for it. That's for sure. Just because, I have been specifically on this Raiders beat since the moment I got to the NFL Network. That's why I was hired, to cover the Bay Area teams. And just because the Raiders are now the Las Vegas Raiders, doesn't take away that connection. And I'm also like protective of it too. Like, hold up. I moved all the way to the Bay, and that was one of my teams. Like, that's not about to change now all of a sudden, just because, what is it, 500 miles?
Yeah, it's like, you can drive it. It's very drivable. And on our end too, like, look, I love all your colleagues at the NFL Network, but we got to keep you in silver and black. All right. Like, I don't want to have to go through the whole process of meeting someone else. And
that's a lot of work.
It is like, it's too much. Like, we've had enough change. We've had enough crazy things happen the past 6 months. Keep MJ Acosta as a Raider. Let's do it. You heard me, Roger Goodell. I've said my piece.
You know what I love too is like the Raider Nation really, like, man, they always have such a huge place in my heart, like forever, because as they take like full ownership of you too. So as you know, I lived in the Bay and covered the Bay Area teams. So it was Raiders and Niners for the past 2 years. And whenever I cover someone else, they're like, hold up. How are you not covering the silver and black right now? Or how are you not talking about Raiders? Like, the fans really do, feel some type of way about it. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it. Because we were talking to Bruce Gradkowski the other day, and he essentially said that things really changed for you in a good way when you realize, like, you need the fans and the fans need you. When there's a two-way street there and you have a mutual respect and understanding for each other, it will completely change your outlook as a player, as a media person, whatever it is. Because everyone, it's a big happy family when everything's working right.
it's definitely a relationship. That's for sure. Like the groundwork is, and they're not just like, oh, now you're covering our team. Cool. Like it took them a bit to like, all right, who is this girl? What is she saying? What is she talking about? Is she credible? And it pushes you too. I mean, it happens with every fan base, but like you feel it. You really feel it in the Bay for sure. And
I
now
know.
in Vegas.
Exactly. Well, MJ, I hope we see you soon. Zoom's cool. Like, it's great to see you on Zoom, but I hope we see you in real life. I hope we can see everyone in real life. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, keep washing your hands, doing what you got to do. And
wear your mask.
Yes, and put the mask on, please, everyone. When you go to Safeway or whatever grocery store, just put it on. It's not that hard. But yeah, I hope we see you soon. Like I said, you're one of our favorites, and hopefully we can do this in real life sooner than later.
That's the hope. We're going to write it down. We're going to manifest it for sure.
And a big, sincere thank you to our pal MJ. Keep an eye out for her on the NFL Network and follow her Twitter feed. Like I said, she is one of our favorite people, and she has a really, I think, just even-handed and fair approach to covering not only us, but the NFL in general. So we thank her deeply, humbly, and oh so sincerely for her time. And now we transition after a long hiatus, after a few weeks away. It is time for Victory Formation. Eddie Paskal and producer Trav, and we could not be more thrilled to welcome back into the mix after 40 days of wandering in the desert our senior esports correspondent, our junior draft analyst, and our resident expert on all things Southern California, the great Kyle Cannon Booby Cartwright Martin. And KMM, how you doing, brother?
I just got done yawning. I'm a little sleepy today. I don't know about you, but it might be the heat wearing me out, man.
You a sleepy boy?
Yeah. I mean, I woke up early this morning to pay my last respects to 1220 Harbor Bay Parkway, and what a time that was.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you, since obviously I haven't been in the building in some months, and I know today was your first time in the building in some months. Paint me a picture, if you will, Booby, of what things are looking like at the old facility.
Cardboard boxes everywhere. No decor, no art on the walls, no old newspaper clippings. Name plaques have been removed. Computers have been removed. The studio is filled with what I can only imagine is a bunch of equipment, but they're all packaged up in boxes and containers. It is moving day at 1220 Harbor Bay Parkway.
And just to clarify before we move on, you did have to pass you had to pass all the health requirements. You had to observe all the safety protocols and things of that nature. It's not like you were just waltzing into the building willy-nilly, right?
No, yeah, I had a mask on, gloves, and my temperature was taken, 97.2, everything checked out. So I wasn't spreading any germs within the building.
Good. I'm glad, number one, I'm glad you're safe and you're healthy. But number two, I'm glad you were able to go in there and give us a little insight of what's going on in the building. But KMM, man, look, my thoughts on the Pro Bowl have been well documented. I don't need to get into it again. But if there was a way that you could intrigue me into, I wouldn't say watching the Pro Bowl, but caring about the Pro Bowl, it would be putting it in Vegas. So this is the most interest you're going to get out of me in a Pro Bowl, is the 2021 Pro Bowl.
I would second that, man. I imagine we're not too far away from everything being hosted in Las Vegas. The Combine, the Draft, the Pro Bowl, the Super Bowl, everything. I mean, no disrespect to Orlando, but going to Orlando for the Pro Bowl was whatever. Very nice. Well, I guess it was sunny, but it was still really cloudy and windy, kind of stormy. But Vegas has everything. I mean, they're going to be able to throw activities all around the strip. I know Caesars Entertainment is the main, what's the word I'm looking for here? The main partner with the NFL for designing, creating, hosting all of the events, which I imagine will be spectacular. So if you're an NFL fan, why would you want to go anywhere else but Vegas for something like the Pro Bowl? It beats me.
Yeah, I was telling MJ before you joined the party that she was like, "Oh, it's going to be such a great thing for Raiders fans to come out and go to the Pro Bowl." And I was like, "MJ, I mean, maybe, but I feel like a lot of these people, if everything goes to plan, they're going to have, flights and hotels planned for the next week in Tampa Bay. But it will be really cool that obviously Vegas is going to get to show off for a few days." And MJ was just like, it's essentially like the pre-funk to like Super Bowl week, which is crazy to think that anyone's pre-party is a weekend in Vegas. And if your pre-party for anything is hanging out in the desert for 72 hours, brother, you are living a different lifestyle than I am.
Well said, man. I don't know how to get on that plan, but I would like to be on that plan.
Would you though? I don't know. I feel like you and I and Trav, we're approaching the tail end of our window to be about that life. You know what I mean? Like we can still go out and crush cold ones with the best of them, but I don't know, dude. 72 hours in Vegas followed by a Super Bowl week. I don't know if my body, my liver, my spirit, my soul, my pocketbook can take that kind of abuse.
Yeah, I mean, it seems good in theory. You make a good point. I went for my 25th birthday and I was done after 36 hours. I was tapped out. Couldn't hang with the big dogs.
Well, you're not a young man anymore, booby. You're not an old man, but I wouldn't categorize you as a young man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I might be young physically, but at heart, I'm an old soul.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Um, Before we get into the more shenanigans and nonsense that we really do love and excel in over here, I just had one question, kind of for the collective, right? Where we're all kind of waiting and watching to figure out how this 2020 season is gonna pan out, right? We all know that it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be different. It's not gonna be what we expect it to be. I mean, at this point, it changes day by day of what it's going to look like. But there were big news this week where Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys running back, positive for the Rona, wishing nothing but love and health and safety to him. But it made me start thinking about this, where if Zeke were to catch the Rona, call it week 5, and I think everyone has kind of collectively come to the point where there's an assumption that there are going to be some positive tests throughout the season, right? How, like, what do you think the protocol is going to be for Zeke, but for like the Cowboys too? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just quarantine an entire team for 14 days, can you?
I mean, I don't think so, but I don't know how to approach this, man. I mean, football is the most contact sport out there. So these guys are constantly in each other's personal bubble, but I don't know how you prevent them from spreading. Um, I Zeke's just the first of many that will get it, I imagine.
I mean, you would think, like, if you're Zeke, or excuse me, like if you're whatever player, I mean, if you get coronavirus, you can be quarantined like as an individual, right? And so, like, I'm just trying to think of, like, let's say you're a backup cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? I'm just making a scenario up. Like, if you test positive, like, it's pretty easy, relatively, right, quote unquote, to remove you from the situation. But like, what happens if, like, were you saying, Kyle, if like this guy spreads it to 5 other guys, and this guy, and those 5 guys, now you're looking at like 15 people. Like, I don't know what you do.
This is why I'm not a doctor. I don't
Yeah.
have the answers. I really don't know. I guess they'll be able to judge the best way to approach a situation like that by watching how the NBA handles their return in late July with their bubble that they're going to have, teams staying in hotels for long periods of time. I mean, the NBA season's supposed to resume from July 31st, I think, until early October. So that's a solid 2.5 month window
Of
that a lot
research,
could
really.
go. Yeah, of research, exactly. But we'll see, man. It's going to be, I don't know. I just feel so uneasy about a lot of things because I feel like people think that Rona has just gone away. It's disappeared when it hasn't at all. There's just been way other, or I mean, I don't want to say way bigger, but there's just been other issues going on in the world that have garnered more attention at the moment. But Rona's still here. It still exists.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's a good call to remind everyone to wear their masks, wash their hands, do everything they got to do because, as you say, KMM, the Rona has not gone anywhere. It might not be getting the press that it was 3 months ago, but it has not disappeared in any way, shape, or form. But I'm glad you brought up the NBA and the NBA's return because I feel like so much has happened since we last conversed with you. So the NBA is coming back, kind of as you mentioned, and going to your adopted hometown of Orlando. They're going to be locked down there, and I was going through all the Woj tweets the other day about kind of the restart and everything, and it's one. I'm just really fired up to have the NBA back. I know that you're literally just waiting with bated breath for LBJ and the boys to hit the court again. But there's one thing that made me smile, and then the more I thought about it, really gave me like a good hearty like belly laugh. So have you seen, K-Men, that they have like that anonymous tip line for players to call in to report guys like breaking protocol?
The snitch line.
The snitch line. Dude, who is the first guy that's going to call in and snitch?
Oh, Rudy Gobert.
Oh, you think it's going
That's
to be Rudy?
that's my guess. Or I
Oh,
saw right before we hopped on the pod. There was a picture of Paul George. Someone took of him just on his phone, and they put in quotation, "Yeah, LeBron and Anthony Davis are playing doubles ping pong, but they're not separated far enough from each other to be following the guidelines for uh, practicing social distancing. I would like them reprimanded." And it's just like along the lines of how low is someone going to stoop to try and get the hand on their competition and remove a big time player from the team.
right. I mean, it's funny too because like obviously this tip line is in place for it. Like the spirit of it's good, right? Like you want people to stay safe. You want there's like a collective level of responsibility there, right? Since you're all living together, eating together, training, working, the whole deal. So like you want everyone to follow the rules, but just the visual of like Chris Paul like hiding in a closet somewhere and like trying to take like cell phone videos of Damian Lillard and whoever, like you said, playing doubles ping pong, it made me laugh so hard, dude. Like it is just hysterical to see because it's gonna bring these guys to being like elementary school kids again. Essentially, it's gonna be super funny, and I can't wait.
It's Chris Paul's another good candidate for snitching.
Yeah, man. I mean, you just look at Chris Paul and you're like, oh, this is a man who is ready to tattle on someone.
Yeah, and then he's gonna have the State Farm agent with him.
Is, hey, is Raymond Felton still in the league?
Oh, dude, I don't think so. I think young Ray has been out of the association for 3 or 4 years now.
Raymundo Felton would be a great guy that I could see snitching too.
Yeah, you might be onto something there.
Raymond Felton, if you want to come on this podcast, please reach out to me, producer Trav, or KMM. We'd love to get your thoughts. But another thing, another thing that came back literally as we were recording this, the Premier League is back, KMM, and it feels so good.
They got to shake off some rust, though. I mean, the officiating crew, from what I saw earlier, just terrible.
Yeah, not good, not good. I mean, but keep in mind, everyone's rusty, right? Like, if we didn't do this show for 3 months, we would be rusty. Imagine being like an actual elite, top tier athlete and trying to do your job after 3 months sitting on the sideline. It would be a challenge.
Did you see what happened though? I believe it was the Aston Villa match.
With the goal that wasn't a goal.
Yes, I mean it was definitely a goal, but
Yes,
it was
yes.
ruled no goal.
Let me put it this way. So I was watching. I set up shop downstairs. Usually, I work almost exclusively upstairs here in the office because I get too distracted, and I'm not a great work from homer still. But this morning, I set up shop downstairs so I could watch the game, and the boss was down there with me too. And she, after that goal, was like, "Look, that's a goal. Like, why are we not getting some sort of replay here?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That is a goal. But yeah, man, everyone's rusty. It's but it felt this afternoon. So I watched the first half before we hopped on and did the pod, but it just felt a lot more normal than I thought it would in a good way. You know what I mean? Like it felt like obviously there weren't any fans there and the environment's a little different, but it just felt like pretty normal to be watching like Man City Arsenal on a Wednesday afternoon. It almost, keyword almost, made you forget that we're living in this hellscape of a time.
Hey man, anything to feel normal, I'm all for it. But I'm afraid that we will never go back to things being normal.
Oh, we will at some point.
This
We
is the
will.
new world.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a time, I think you're right. I mean, I think the, you know, international travel for us and hopping on a plane and doing all that, jetting off for a weekend, I think that is a ways away, but I still can't picture a world where, like, when we have kids, 10 years from now, that you're not able to go to Disneyland and stuff like that. I just, maybe it's me being naive or trying to stay positive, but we're living in a very weird, unsettling time right now. But I, it can't last forever, can it, KMM?
I would hope not, but at this point, I can't be surprised by anything anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I did want to ask you something though, on a little bit of a more positive note. So we have games coming back, right? The Premier League is back. The NBA will be back in what, a little less than a month, if my mathematics are correct. Baseball we'll probably never see again. But I was wondering, since we're getting back to action, is it time for you to re-unveil the boring game of the week?
Oh boy, we're nearing it.
We're
We
getting
definitely,
close, right? I mean, I don't know if we're there today or if we're there tomorrow, but I think we're getting close, right?
yeah, we definitely are. The issue is if we bring back boring game of the week, I don't know if the boring game of the week will be relevant during the NBA's return. However, there might be a possibility for a boring matchup of the week. Playoff rounds usually take what, a week, week and a half?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
If the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans somehow manage to get matched up, it won't happen. But if that were a scenario, that would earn a boring matchup of the week in my mind.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it, because by the time the NBA comes back, you're gonna have the NBA. You're gonna have probably a couple weeks left of the Premier League. You'll have MLS back in action. Who knows about baseball? But you're gonna have a nice little buffet to choose from in terms of what the worst game of the week is.
Yeah, I know. It's been so long. I've missed it.
Oh, I've missed it too. I've missed sports in general, but probably more than that, Kyle. I've missed your boring game of the week segment. That's really what I've missed during these trying times.
That brings a smile to my face, man. I mean, it seems like just yesterday.
I know we still
We
got to get our merch taken care of, right?
Yeah, we do, and it seems like just yesterday that we were cracking Martinelli's in the pod studio for the Bears Packers boring game of the year matchup.
Oh boy, I think this year, Kyle, we got to be really on top of it in terms of boring game of the week, and we have to do like an official like ceremony. Like we got to get like a trophy. We have to find like someone to send it to. Like we gotta up the production level. I know across the board we got to up the production level in everything we do, but in particular, I think boring game of the week and boring game of the year is something we should take a lot of pride in.
Weekly graphics. I mean, I like where your head is. I think this is something we should develop further.
Yes, because I mean, listen, we've been told from the highest of the higher ups that the expectation is changing in the desert, right? We're playing with the big dogs now. And because of that, like you said, Kyle, graphics, ceremonies, merch, it's all got to come, baby. And it's going to start with us.
Yeah, I look forward to it, man. Look forward to it. The pod is doing exciting things, and this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Can't wait till I see you in person. Give you a little kiss on the cheek.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be social distancing, Eddie. I
Oh,
don't know
that's
if I
right.
feel
My
comfortable
apologies.
with
My
that.
apologies. I won't do that. I won't do that. I will give you how about a respectful bow from 7 feet away? Would that suffice?
Sure, whatever you feel comfortable doing from the appropriate distance.
Yes, yes. Real quick though, before we crack a few cold ones and get out of here, I had this very random shower thought the other day that I wrote down in my phone, and I just wanted to get your guys' take on it. Probably you, Travi, more than Booby. No offense, but I've been watching. Like, we obviously watch a disgusting amount of television right now since there's nothing to do. But I've seen about 75 trailers for that King of Staten Island movie. Are you familiar with this one, Kyle? The one with Pete
Oh, I
Davidson?
watched it. I watched it.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, it
How
was
was it?
outstanding. It was really good. I actually really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, that's on my my weekend to-do list. But
Yeah, people are saying it's Judd Apatow's best movie.
well, I don't know if I'm willing to say that since I haven't seen this piece of cinema yet. But hit me with the movie reviews by Booby. How many stars you going with out of 4?
Out of 4 stars, I'm gonna give it a. Can I use decimals, or does it have?
Please, yeah.
I would give it a 3.2 out of 4 stars.
That's good. That's solid. That's like a solid B plus, right?
Yeah, entertaining movie. Evokes emotion across the board, laughs, sadness, anger. Uh, just an all around well done film.
I love it. Well, I will report back with my review next week. But the reason I brought this up is because in these 75 previews that I've seen for it, they all use this same clip where Pete Davidson and his boys are singing that Wallflower song in the bar, you know? Like
Yes.
yeah. And so I was thinking, so essentially like that's like the trailer, like it's like the little trailer to his life. And I was like, what would the song be that you guys would use if it was going to be the King of San Jose or the King of Alameda? Like what would that song be, that like 90-second clip for the trailer in your life biopic?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, that's an easy one. That's easy. That's too easy. Travi, what do you got?
I don't know, man. There's so many songs. I guess it depends on what part of. Well, if it's my whole life, I don't know. Uh, I'm leaning towards Back in Black probably, or Still Dre.
Oh, that's two very different roads that you're gonna go down there, T.
Yeah, what movie it is, you know?
I'm just imagining a trailer for your life, Trav, and Still Dre playing. That's outstanding.
I wish I knew you at the Still Dre part of your life, because I feel like now it's like easy listening, Trav. Like I didn't get the Still Dre, Still Dre, Trav.
Oh yeah, there was a time.
There was a oh man, I think I was gonna go because obviously I thought about this probably more than I should have, but I think it would be the Tom Petty song, my Won't Back Down song. You can stand me up
All
at the
right.
gates of hell, brother, but I will not back down. Because that's fun. You can get drunk with your buddies. You can sing that. You know, there's a level of defiance, but positivity and you know everything. It's a good one. But I think it's gonna be hard for me to top your "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend," Kyle.
Imagine a group of buddies getting drunk and singing that. That is a dark picture.
Oh boy, I don't know if I mean someone's done it, right? Like I don't know. That's a bummer. But I feel like if you're doing that though, it wouldn't be with your buddies. It would just be you alone, you know?
Yeah, most likely.
Like I feel you would like draw the blinds on your, cuz you have that beautiful front window that looks out towards the street in Alameda. I feel like you would draw those. You would just sit there in the darkness, literally. You would put on your vinyl record collection with some whiskey, a lot of whiskey probably in a big cup, and you would just sing.
Light a single non-scented candle.
The non-scented.
The non-scented candle. I'm not good enough for scents.
Oh, dude, the non-scented really adds a whole nother layer of sadness. You are a sick man, KMM. You are a truly sick man. Oh God, I missed you. I missed this. I told you in these trying times, this little portion of my week is what keeps me going. So, Travi, do we have enough time to crush a few cold ones before we get out of here? What do you think?
I think so.
All right, who wants to go first this week?
You. That's all you.
Me? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh man, well I will crush a cold one for my close personal friend Raheem Sterling, who scored the first goal in the Premier League's return just a few hours ago. And I will crack the cold one for him, not only because he scored a beautiful golazo for my beloved Man City team. But Raheem has been one of the more outspoken, more passionate players really across the world about fighting for social equality and social justice. And so for those two reasons, Raheem, I will crack a cold one to you, good sir.
Not a bad choice, man. Not a bad choice. I'm actually going to keep it somewhat similar. And I'm going to crack a cold one for Trent Brown of the Las Vegas Raiders. He launched the TB77 Cares Foundation and is donating proceeds to struggling communities around the globe. So go check it out. See what TB77 Cares is all about. And it's just always cool to see when players of the team and members of the organization try to give back to the community.
Shout out the greatest underdog one time, a true legend. What do you got, Travi? Bring us home, baby.
Well, considering that it's Father's Day this weekend, I'll crack a cold one for all the dads out there.
Ah,
in our
beautiful.
department, which you know who you are.
Yeah. Did you say the dads in our department?
Yeah.
Do we have any, here's a question. Do we have any guys in our department who don't know their dads?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to.
I don't want to play that guessing game.
Yeah. Nor do I. But I just love how mysterious Travis left it. Like, well, you know who you are, or maybe you don't. I don't know. It's none of my business whether you do or you don't know about your fatherhood. But that's a good one, man. Yeah, it's crazy that, like, obviously it is Father's Day this weekend, but I feel like we've not like forgotten, but time is just such a weird construct right now that, like, all these like holidays that are usually like a pretty big deal, they're kind of just like, maybe we'll catch you in 2021. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they definitely seem abbreviated.
Yeah, they sure do. But yeah, big shout out to all the dads out there, man. Big shout out to my dad. Big shout out to KMM's dad. How is Rick, by the way, KMM?
Rick Sr. actually just retired on Friday. I should have. I'd like to crack an additional cold one for him. Yeah.
God bless him.
44 years at one company. That is a long time to dedicate to one thing. You know, that seems crazy to me. But good for him. Good for him for not getting kicked to the curb early.
That's beautiful. I hope he has more time to dedicate to his photography now.
Yeah, he's got a lot of sketch and charcoal paintings that he'd like to do. He'd also like to get his hands dirty and fix some things around the house. So Rick Sr.'s got plenty going on, but man, 44 years.
God bless him.
I hope I'm able to be 44 years in one place.
I hope you're able to turn 44. I'm worried about you getting to 44, big dog.
Yeah, well, that's a better goal to shoot for first. Probably a more achievable one too.
Yes, truly. Well, God, man, this was fun. It was good to have you guys back. It was good to have a little taste of normal once again. And we will be back same time, same place next week. Correct, Travis? That's what the schedule's telling us?
That's what it's telling me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Travis is nodding and then also saying that with his words. So we will be back at the same time, same place next week. So a big thank you to our guest this week, MJ Acosta. A big thank you to producer Trav, to KMM, to engineer Jim, to everyone else who helps get our little program from A to Z. We thank you deeply, humbly, and oh so sincerely. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you guys next week for another episode of Upon Further Review.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Upon Further Review, presented by Coors Light on the official Raiders Podcast Network.